This is Set Him Free, Chapter 6. A knock upon his door caused Roman to grumble as he was awoken from what could have been a good night's sleep. He offered no response, hoping whoever lay behind the wooden surface would take a hint and leave. A second series of knocking resounded within the room, Roman's eyebrows pinching together at the troublesome sound. "What?" he spoke, words dripping with annoyance. "Prince Roman, may I have a word with you?" "Whatever it is can wait, Logan," Roman muttered, tunneling farther under the covers. "Is the kingdom on fire?" "No, it is most certainly not, as we are standing safely within it." "Good. I see no reason to be aroused, then." He flopped back onto the pillow. The prince recognized the sound of the door opening and fought back the drowsy annoyance that threatened to surface within him. This better be good, he thought, peeking out from behind the covers to glare at his advisor. Logan sighed in return, clearing his throat and retrieving something from his pocket. "If I may, Your Highness, we have received an indication of a possible offense to the law, said to occur this morning." Roman shot up immediately, any sense of exhaustion vanishing. "Go on." "Occurring around 12 o'clock yesterday afternoon, a sheet of parchment was recovered just outside of the palace gates. It appeared to have some kind of plan describing a route to a blacksmithing forge located not too far from here. Taking note of the possible accounts of thievery it seems to illustrate, I have reason to believe it may involve—" "Virgil Rayne himself!" Roman declared, swiftly rolling out of bed, stepping into his closet. "Yes," Logan rolled his eyes. "That would be the someone I was about to mention before I was so eloquently interrupted." "Oh, this is simply magnificent! I tell you, today shall be the greatest of days!" "Possibly, though we cannot truly prove the outcome until we have experienced the full day. Honestly, how many times must I remind you of how the real world works?" "There's a thing called fate, Logan." "Ah, yes, fate," Logan deadpanned, stepping to the side as several garments were thrown from the closet. "The invisible force that definitely compels us all." "Just you wait," Roman exclaimed, stepping out of the closet after finally finding the right attire. "Today is going to be full of adventures. I can feel it." "Adventures such as cleaning your now soiled room?" Logan lifted a clean shirt from the floor, sending Roman an expectant glance. "That, my friend, is a task for later. Right now we have a criminal to catch. Do not fret. I shall be back before you know it." The prince crossed the room, looping a leather belt satchel around his waist and practically tripping over himself as he strode to the doorway. Logan attempted to follow, but was stopped as the door was eagerly shut in his face. The advisor frowned as the door was opened again to reveal a red-faced Roman, who was currently attempting to stumble out several apologies. Logan simply smirked at the prince's stammering, stepping past the doorway and taking the lead to the main corridor. Roman took the hint once Logan had made it several doors ahead, rushing to keep up. They arrived at the queen's study, Logan raising his fist to knock upon the door, though, as he observed the prince's fidgeting, he allowed his hand to slip to his side, flashing Roman a reassuring smile. "Go," he said. "I will handle informing the queen." "Are you sure?" "I am certain. Now, I suggest you hurry along, as Virgil may already be on his way to steal yet another article." "All right." Roman spun on his heels, the longing for adventure now filling his veins. "Oh, and one final thing, Your Highness." Logan reached out, regaining the prince's attention. "Do be safe out there. I know you have been instructed of this many times, but it would be beneficial if you could decrease your mother's worry. Not to mention that even Patton and I manage to become tense when your returns are delayed." Something flashed in Roman's head. They really did care. He allowed a small smile to creep upon his face, differing from the usual grin that occupied his expressions. "You have my word. I shall remain cautious. I bid you a temporary farewell, then." "Don't miss me too much." Roman gave an elegant wave, Logan rolling his eyes in response. Next thing he knew, the kingdom doors were behind him. Brisk autumn winds flooded his senses once he cleared the palace gates, and Roman couldn't help but be delighted by his surroundings. The sounds of soft chatter and the clattering of horse-drawn carts left the streets a bustling marvel, awakening with the morning sky. The lines of delicate shops and conversing villagers enticed him, and he soon found himself sauntering closer towards society, though the queen's voice rang deep within his mind. "You shall not encounter any of those less than us. They are cruel individuals who simply seek what we have. Give them an inch, and they will pry at you until you crumble, just as they did with your father." The prince shook his head, turning away. What did his mother know anyway? Quite a lot, it seemed, as she had managed to govern the kingdom on her own for 11 years. The corners of his mouth edged downward, his eyes trailing to the ground. Just another chain link pulling him away from normalcy. It didn't have to be that way, though. Regaining focus, Roman found his way to the recovered slip of paper. The slanted handwriting had already been imprinted in his mind, leaving him now only needing to find the forge within the buzzing street. One after the other, he glanced within windows and doorways, searching for any possible sign of disturbance. The forge came into view. Crashes of cold metal colliding with anvils resided in the air, seeming to fill the area in a thunderous daze. A sharp sense of iron occupied the space, accompanied by future swords and arrowheads, all glowing a brilliant red. The prince made his way through the various work tables, treading with a valorous stance. Several smiths scowled in his direction, faces growing red once they realized who was roaming through their shop. Roman allowed himself to be slightly entertained by the people's reactions to royalty. He sent smiles and winks while he passed the workers, having to quickly remind himself that he was there for a reason other than charming those around him. Roman reached the rear of the building, rotating around to take in a full view of the establishment. Beads of sweat had managed to find a way down his forehead, an unfortunate symptom of entering a structure full of fires and red-hot metal. He was not one to doubt Logan's hypotheses, yet nothing appeared to be out of the ordinary. How unfortunate. The prince walked along the side wall, eyes downcast, but no sooner had he crossed the main forge when a shadow darted across his vision. Roman's head shot up immediately, just in time to see a form dash out into the streets. The prince desperately attempted to contain his excitement, eyes narrowing eagerly as he followed the darkened figure. One step, and he was off, chasing nothing but a blur within the crowds. The streets aroused with the morning light, more people flooding into the cobblestone paveways with each second. The prince rushed through the cliques of villagers, shouting frantic apologies behind his shoulder as he ran. There was no time for the usual pleasantries, not when achieving success was a mere yards away. He followed the shadow in the distance, watching as the thief cloaked in black struggled to make his way through the crowds. Roman smiled. This was all too easy. Taking in short breaths of air, he summoned the last bouts of stamina and made a break for it. Puddles splattered under the soles of his boots, sending splashes of rainwater into the air, whilst filling the prince with even more exhilaration. Roman allowed himself to laugh, fantasizing of what would come next. His mother wouldn't know what to say when he returned home with such a victory. Logan would surely be surprised, and Patton would begin cheering the moment Roman entered the castle gates. Everything would be different, even better than before, and it was all thanks to that lovely letter. one so delicately placed at just the right time. The one clothed in black and purple rounded the corner, and Roman's anticipation only grew. He accompanied the thief, sprinting into the darkened silhouettes of the alleyway. It was as if a switch had flipped, transforming the ever-present chitter of the markets into an eerie silence, all accompanied by a dark shroud. Roman glanced around, eyebrows furrowed. The thief was nowhere to be seen, though he couldn't have simply vanished. Could he? "Virgil, you are required by law to reveal yourself. I'm sure I need not remind you that you are still a wanted fugitive." He stepped forward, trying to make out the shapes within the shade of the alleyway. His senses defied him, clouded with the unknown. It was all terribly unsettling. Everything about his surroundings screamed trouble, and he wasn't so sure he favored that. A disturbance within the stillness reached Roman's ears, though he couldn't tell whether his mind was simply playing games. Roman narrowed his eyes, removing the dagger he kept at his side from its scabbard. Never had he been more thankful for Logan's insistence on always carrying a weapon, though, at this moment, he greatly longed for his sword. "I'm going to give you one more chance," Roman announced. "Reveal yourself or face the consequences." The tapping of footsteps echoed behind him, and Roman whipped around, dagger drawn. Nothing. No indication of movement, or even a mere whisper. He stepped back. Surely he wasn't imagining things. No, there had to be someone. The back of his head erupted in pain, sending him reeling. Knees buckling, he fell to the ground, grimacing as his body hit hard stone. The dagger clattered to the ground, resounding within Roman's ears like a thunderclap. He desperately attempted to steady himself, but stumbled with shallow breaths. A swift kick to his head sent a stabbing pain through his body, causing him to crumple to the ground once more. Glancing up weakly, 3 figures appeared in his vision before he slipped out of consciousness. This has been Set Him Free, Chapter 6. Thank you so very much for listening, and I will see you next time for Chapter 7.